She had not been invited, but the lawyer called her name first. "What is she doing here?" Victoria's voice cut through the conference room like a blade. Adayezi Nwosu stood in the doorway. Navy blue dress, no jewelry, hands clasped in front of her, head unbowed. The lawyer looked up from his documents. "She is a beneficiary, Mrs. Mensah." "A what?" Derek leaned forward. "She's the maid. She is named in your father's will." Victoria laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Solomon left something to the help?" "What? A thank you card?" Chidi Okonkwo did not smile. "Mrs. Mensah, I think you should let me read the document." Adaze moved to the empty chair at the far end of the table. She sat down quietly. She did not look at Victoria. She did not look at anyone. She simply waited. And for the first time in 10 years, she waited inside. The conference room smelled like old money. Leather chairs, mahogany table, a chandelier that cost more than most people made in a year. Victoria Mensah sat at the head of the table, back straight, chin high, dressed in black Chanel from head to toe. A widow, a wealthy widow. And she wanted everyone in that room to know it. Her son Derek sat to her left, 28 years old, Rolex on his wrist, eyes already calculating his share. Her daughter Nana sat to her right, 25, designer bag on the table, phone in hand, barely paying attention. They had been waiting for the lawyer to begin. And now, with Adaeze sitting at the table, the reading could finally start. She had nothing when she arrived, and Victoria made sure she never forgot it. Adaeze remembered the first day she walked into the Mensah mansion. It was a Tuesday in September, hot, humid, the kind of Atlanta heat that made your clothes stick to your skin. She had taken 3 buses to get there. Her shoes were worn. Her dress was old but clean. She carried a small bag with everything she owned. The house took her breath away. 3 stories, white columns, a circular driveway with a fountain in the center. More windows than she could count. A woman opened the front door. Tall, elegant, skin like burnished copper, lips pressed thin. "You must be the new girl." "Yes, ma'am." "Adaeze Nwosu." Victoria looked her up and down, slow, deliberate, the way you examine something you are not sure you want to buy. "You're English. Where did you learn it?" "I studied at the University of Lagos, before I came here." "Lagos." Victoria said the word like it tasted sour. "Well, this is Atlanta. Things are different here." "Yes, ma'am." "You will call me Mrs. Mensah. Never Victoria. Never ma'am. Mrs. Mensah. Is that clear?" "Yes, Mrs. Mensah." Victoria turned and walked inside. Adaeze followed. The entrance hall was marble, flowers on every table, a staircase that curved up like something from a movie. "Boy, your duties are simple," Victoria said without turning around. "You clean, you cook, you wash, you iron. You do whatever I tell you to do, and you stay out of my sight unless I need you." "Yes, Mrs. Mensah." They stopped at a door near the back of the house. Victoria opened it. A small room, a single bed, a tiny window, bare walls. "This is where you sleep." Adaeze nodded. "Thank you. Gratitude is earned, not given." Victoria looked at her watch. "Lunch is in 1 hour. The kitchen is down the hall. Figure it out." She left without another word. Adaeze sat on the bed. The mattress was thin. The pillow was flat. But it was a room. It was a job. It was a chance. She closed her eyes and said a quiet prayer. She did not know that the next 10 years would test every prayer she had. It started small. A look, a comment, a plate pushed away. The first week, Adaeze learned the house. She learned that Solomon Mensah left for work at 7 and came home at 8. She learned that Derek slept until noon and spent his father's money like water. She learned that Nana changed outfits 3 times a day and never picked up anything she dropped. And she learned that Victoria had rules. Rules that were never written down. Rules that changed without warning. Rules that only applied to her. The silver goes on the left. Are you stupid? I am sorry, Mrs. Mensah. I will fix it. You ironed a crease into my blouse. Do you know how much this cost? I am sorry, Mrs. Mensah. I will do it again. The chicken is dry. Did they not teach you to cook in Lagos? I am sorry, Mrs. Mensah. I will make another. Sorry, sorry, sorry. Daisy said the word so many times it lost its meaning. But she never fought back. She never raised her voice. She never gave Victoria what she wanted, a reason to throw her out. Because Daisy had nowhere else to go. Her visa was tied to this job. Her family back home depended on the money she sent. Her dreams of building something better. They all lived inside this house. So she swallowed her pride, day after day, week after week, until the day Victoria made the rule that broke something inside her. It was a Sunday. The family was having brunch on the back patio. Eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, orange juice, and crystal glasses. Daisy brought out the last tray and set it on the table. Will there be anything else, Mrs. Mensah? Victoria did not look up. Yes, take your plate and eat outside. Daisy paused. Outside? Are you deaf? Outside. By the garden shed. I do not want to see you while we are eating. Derek laughed. Nana smirked. Solomon looked up from his newspaper. His eyes met Daisy's for a brief moment. She saw something there, something that looked like shame. But he said nothing. Yes, Mrs. Mensah. Daisy's voice was steady. I will eat outside. She took her plate, the small one, out with the food that was almost cold, and walked across the lawn to the garden shed. There was an old wooden crate there. She turned it over, sat down, and ate her breakfast alone. The sun was hot. The flies were thick. The food tasted like nothing, but she ate every bite. Because she was Daisy Nwosu, and she had survived worse than this. He never said much, but he saw everything. Solomon Mensah was a quiet man. He had built his fortune in real estate. I bought his first property at 25, owned half of Buckhead by 50, worth over $80 million by the time he turned 60. But he never talked about money, never bragged, never flashed his wealth the way his wife did. He woke early, worked late, read books in his study, played chess against himself. And he watched. He watched his wife belittle the maid. He watched his son waste his potential. He watched his daughter become a copy of her mother. And he watched Daisy. He watched her scrub floors at midnight without complaint. He watched her iron shirts until they were perfect. He watched her cook meals she was not allowed to eat at the table. He watched her eat outside, day after day, year after year. And one evening, he found her in the kitchen, alone, crying. She did not see him at first. She was standing by the sink, shoulders shaking, hands covering her face. He cleared his throat softly. She spun around, wiped her eyes, straightened her dress. Mr. Mensah, I am sorry. I did not know you were... Sit down, Daisy. Sir, please, sit. She sat at the small kitchen table. He sat across from her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Solomon said, How long have you been with us? 6 years, sir. 6 years. He nodded slowly. And in 6 years, I have never once seen you lose your temper. Never seen you fight back. Never seen you do anything but work and endure. Daisy looked at her hands. It is my job. Yes, sir. No. Solomon leaned forward. It is more than that. I know what my wife is. I know how she treats you. And I know that most people would have left by now. I cannot leave, sir. My family. I know. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded check, slid it across the table. This is for you, separate from your salary. Tell no one. Daisy unfolded the check. Her breath caught. $50,000. Sir, I cannot. You can. And you will. Solomon stood up. My wife will never change, Daisy. My children will never see you as a person. But I do. I see you. And I will not forget what you have endured in this house. He walked to the door. Stopped. One more thing. He looked back at her. Whatever happens, do not leave before I do. Promise me that. Daisy did not understand, but she nodded. I promise, sir. Solomon smiled. A sad smile, a knowing smile. Good. Because one day, Adaze. The scales will balance. They always do. He left. Adaze sat alone in the kitchen, the check in her hands, tears streaming down her face. She did not know what he meant, but she would find out. 10 years is a long time to be invisible, but invisible people see everything. The years passed like water through a cracked pot. Slow, steady, draining. Adaze turned 43, then 45, then 48, then 50. Her hair grew gray at the temples. Her hands grew rough from bleach and soap. Her knees ached from scrubbing marble floors. But she stayed. She stayed when Derek crashed his third BMW and blamed her for not waking him up on time. She stayed when Nana threw a glass of wine on her white uniform because the temperature was wrong. She stayed when Victoria made her wash every window in the mansion, inside and outside, in the middle of January. She stayed when they laughed at her accent, when they mocked her clothes, when they pretended she did not exist. She ate outside. Summer, winter, rain, shine. By the garden shed, on the old wooden crate, alone. 10 years, 3,650 days. And not once, did she sit at their table. But Solomon never forgot her. Every year on her birthday, she would find an envelope under her door. Cash, always cash. Never a note. But she knew. When her mother fell sick in Lagos, Solomon paid for the surgery. Adaze never asked. The hospital simply called and said the bill was covered. When her nephew needed school fees, she found an extra envelope with exactly the right amount, to the dollar. Solomon never spoke of these things, never acknowledged them, never wanted thanks. But every now and then, when Victoria was not looking, he would pass by Adaze in the hallway, and he would nod. Just once, a small nod, and she would nod back. It was their secret language. The language of two people who understood something that the others never would. That kindness matters. That dignity has a price. And that one day, the debt would be paid. He told her first. Not his wife. Not his children. Her. It was a Thursday evening in March. Victoria had gone to her book club. Derek was in Miami. Nana was at a spa retreat. The house was empty. Quiet. Still. Adaze was folding laundry in the utility room when Solomon appeared at the door. He looked tired. More tired than she had ever seen him. Adaze, do you have a moment? Of course, sir. He sat down on a small stool in the corner. She had never seen him sit in this room before. Never seen him anywhere near the laundry. I went to the doctor today, he said. Adaze stopped folding. Something in his voice made her chest tighten. They found something. In my pancreas. He paused. It is cancer. Stage 4. The shirt slipped from her hands. Sir, 6 months. Maybe less. He said it calmly, like he was reading a weather report. I wanted you to know first. Why me, sir? Solomon looked at her. Really looked at her. His eyes were wet but steady. Because you are the only person in this house who has ever treated me like a human being. Not a wallet, not a status symbol, not a means to an end. He took a breath. Just a man. Adaze felt tears burning her eyes. Sir, I am so sorry. Do not be sorry, Adaze. I have lived a good life. I built something from nothing. Seen things. Done things. He smiled softly. My only regret is the people I leave behind. Your family will... My family. He laughed, a bitter laugh. My family will fight over my money before my body is cold. My wife will wear designer black to my funeral and check her phone during the eulogy. My son will crash another car celebrating his inheritance. My daughter will post sad photos for attention and then go shopping. He leaned forward. But you, Adaze, you are different. You stayed when anyone else would have left. You endured what no one should endure. And you never, not once, lost your dignity. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a business card. This is my lawyer, Chidi Okonkwo. I've already spoken to him. When the time comes, and it will come soon, He will contact you. Do not ignore his call. Adaze took the card. Her hands were trembling. Sir, I do not understand. Solomon stood up, straightened his jacket. You will. Or when the time comes, you will understand everything. He walked to the door, paused. Thank you, Adaze, for 10 years of grace. I will not forget it, and I will make sure no one else forgets it either. He left. Adaze stood alone in the laundry room, the business card in her hand, tears streaming down her face. She did not know what was coming, but she knew, somehow she knew, that everything was about to change. He left the same way he lived, quietly, without fanfare, without fuss. Solomon Mensah died on a Tuesday afternoon in September, exactly 10 years, to the day, after Adaze had first walked into his house. The last few months had been hard. He had grown thin, weak, pale. The cancer had spread quickly, just as the doctor said it would. Victoria hired nurses, day nurses, night nurses, a whole team of them. But it was Adaze who stayed. She brought him soup when he could not eat solid food. She read to him when his eyes were too tired to read. She sat by his bed when the pain was too much for sleep, and she listened. In those final weeks, Solomon talked. More than he had talked in 10 years. He talked about his childhood in Ghana, about his father who sold cloth in the market, about his mother who prayed for him every night. He talked about coming to America with nothing, sleeping in his car, working 3 jobs, saving every penny. He talked about meeting Victoria, about how beautiful she was, about how he had mistaken ambition for love. He talked about his children, about how he had given them everything except the one thing they needed, struggle. I made them soft, he said one night. I gave them money instead of values, comfort instead of character. And now, he coughed, a wet, rattling cough. Now it is too late. Adaze held his hand. It is never too late, sir. For them, it is. He squeezed her hand weakly. But not for you. Never for you. On his last day, Solomon called everyone into his room. Victoria stood by the window, arms crossed, impatient. Derek sat in a chair, scrolling his phone. Nana leaned against the wall, already crying, the kind of crying that looked good for photos. And Adaze stood by the door, as always, in the background, invisible. Solomon looked at each of them, one by one. Then he looked at Adaze. Come here, he said. Victoria frowned. Solomon, what are you? I said, come here. Adaze walked to his bedside. She stood next to him, heart pounding. Solomon took her hand, placed it on his chest, over his heart. This woman, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, is the only person in this room who ever loved me for who I was. Not what I had, not what I could give, just me. Victoria's face turned red. Solomon, be quiet. His voice was sharp, final. For once in your life, Victoria, be quiet. The room went still. Solomon looked up at Adaze. His eyes were fading, but his words were clear. Thank you, he said, for everything. And then his eyes closed. And Solomon Mensah was gone. She had spent 10 years waiting outside. Now it was time to come in. The funeral was everything Solomon had predicted. Victoria wore designer black. She checked her phone during the eulogy. Derek drove a new Mercedes to the cemetery. He had already ordered it the day before. Nana posted 14 photos. #blessed, #angel, #miss you daddy. And Adaze stood in the back, alone, unnoticed, just as she had stood for 10 years. 3 weeks later, the call came. Ms. Nwosu, this is Chidi Okonkwo, Mr. Mensah's attorney. I am calling to inform you that you are named in his will. Your presence is required at the reading tomorrow at 10 a.m. Adaze's heart stopped. I do not understand. You will. Tomorrow. My office is downtown. I will text you the address. The line went dead. Adaze sat on her small bed, in her small room, Eve staring at her phone. 10 years of eating outside. 10 years of being invisible. 10 years of swallowing her pride. And now, finally, Something was about to change. The next morning, Adaze put on her best dress. The navy blue one. The one she had worn to church every Sunday for 5 years. She took the bus downtown. She walked into the building. She rode the elevator to the 15th floor. And she stepped into the conference room where Victoria, Derek, and Nana were already waiting. Victoria's face twisted the moment she saw her. What is she doing here? Chidi did not flinch. She is a beneficiary. Please, Mrs. Mensah, let us begin. The lawyer opened the envelope, unfolded the document. This is the last will and testament of Solomon Kwame Mensah, dated 8 months ago, witnessed and notarized. Victoria leaned forward, hungry. Derek put down his phone, finally paying attention. Nana stopped crying. Suddenly, very interested, Chidi cleared his throat. To my son, Derek Solomon Mensah, I leave his existing trust fund. No additional inheritance. The trust will continue to pay out $3,000 per month until depleted. Current balance, $87,000. Derek's face went white. What? That's it? Chidi continued. To my daughter, Nana Victoria Mensah, I leave her existing trust fund. Same terms. Current balance, $62,000. Nana shot up from her chair. Daddy would never. Sit down, Ms. Mensah. I am not finished. Nana sat. Victoria's jaw was tight. Just read my portion. Skip the dramatics. Chidi nodded slowly. Very well. He turned the page. To my wife, Victoria Adwoa Mensah, I leave the house at 1847 Rosewood Drive, and nothing else. The room went silent. Victoria blinked. Nothing else? What do you mean, nothing else? The house is paid off. You may keep it. But all liquid assets, investments, business holdings, and properties are allocated elsewhere. Victoria's voice rose. Allocated where? To whom? Chidi looked up. His eyes moved to Adaze. The room followed his gaze. To Adaze Chidinma. Victoria laughed. A high, hysterical laugh. This is a joke. This is a sick joke. Chidi did not smile. I assure you, Mrs. Mensah, this is no joke. He read from the document. To Adaeze Chidinma Nwosu, who served my household with grace, dignity, and loyalty for 10 years. I leave the following. All business holdings under Mensah Properties, LLC, valued at $34 million. All investment accounts, valued at $22 million. The property at 445 Peachtree Tower, valued at $8 million. The property at 12 Coastal Highway, valued at $6 million. And a personal bequest of $5 million in cash, to be transferred immediately upon my death. The room was spinning. Adaze could not breathe. Total inheritance, Chidi said, approximately $75 million. Victoria's legs gave out. She grabbed the edge of the table, missed, collapsed into her chair. No, 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 no. I know. She was shaking. Her face was pale. This cannot be legal. He was not in his right mind. He was sick. He was manipulated. Chidi reached into his briefcase, pulled out a USB drive. Mr. Mensah anticipated this response. He recorded a video statement 8 months ago, when he was of sound mind and body. Would you like to see it? Victoria said nothing. Chidi plugged in the drive, turned his laptop toward the room, and Solomon Mensah appeared on the screen. He looked healthy, strong, and clear-eyed. He was sitting in his study, the chessboard behind him, his favorite chair. If you are watching this, he said, then I am gone, and you are probably very confused. He smiled. That sad, knowing smile. Victoria, I know you are angry. I know you are already planning to contest this will. Let me save you the trouble. I have had 3 independent psychiatrists verify my mental competency. I have video documentation of every decision. My lawyer has copies of everything. He leaned forward. But more importantly, I want you to understand why. His voice hardened. For 30 years, I watched you. I watched you spend my money like it was water. I watched you treat our children like accessories. And I watched you treat Adaze, a woman who worked harder than anyone in that house, like she was less than human. Victoria flinched. You made her eat outside. For 10 years. Summer, winter, rain, shine. Like a dog. Like she did not deserve to sit at the same table as you. Solomon shook his head. I said nothing. I know. That is my shame. I should have stopped it. I should have stood up for her. But I was weak. I was tired. I told myself it was easier to stay quiet. He paused. But this is me finally speaking up. This is me saying what I should have said years ago. He looked directly into the camera. Adaize Nwosu is worth more than all of you combined. And I am making sure the world knows it. The video ended. The room was silent. Victoria was crying now. Real tears. Ugly tears. The kind that came from losing everything. Derek stared at the table. His hands were shaking. Nana had her face in her hands. Mascara running down her cheeks. And Adaize sat at the end of the table. Still. Quiet. Tears rolling down her face. Not tears of triumph. Not tears of revenge. Tears of recognition. After 10 years, someone had finally seen her. Chidi closed the laptop. Ms. Nwosu, there are documents to sign. We can take as much time as you need. Adaize nodded slowly. She wiped her eyes. Then she stood up. She walked to the door. Stopped. And for the first time in 10 years, she turned and looked at Victoria. Not with anger, not with hatred, not with spite. Just peace. Mrs. Mensah, she said softly. I forgive you. Victoria's mouth opened. No words came out. I do not say that to hurt you. I say it because I refuse to carry you any longer. You were cruel to me for 10 years, but I will not let that cruelty live inside me for one more day. She opened the door. I hope, for your sake, that you learn what your husband tried to teach you. That kindness is worth more than gold. That dignity cannot be bought. And that fate never forgets. She stepped out, and the door closed behind her. 3 months later, Adaize stood on the balcony of her new penthouse. On downtown Atlanta spread out before her. Lights glittering, traffic humming, the world alive and moving. She was 52 years old. She had $75 million to her name. She had more than she had ever dreamed of. But that was not what made her smile. What made her smile was the letter in her hand, from her nephew in Lagos. He had just graduated from university, first in his class, full scholarship for his master's degree. She had paid for everything, just like Solomon had paid for her. The scales had balanced. And somewhere out there, she knew Solomon was smiling too. Adaize waited 10 years. 10 years of eating outside. 10 years of being invisible. 10 years of choosing grace when cruelty would have been easier. And fate rewarded every single day of that patience. If you believe that the proud always fall and the humble always rise, then subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Because the next story might be the one that changes everything you believe about justice. See you in the next tale.